coastal defense and food security in Southeast Asia. We have a very interesting panel of speakers today joining us. We have Apri Susanto Astra from Wetlands International Indonesia, Renier Nauta, an agriculture expert at Wageningen University and Research, and Navisa Nurbandika, a biomanagement specialist in Haskoning. Today, myself and Helene van den Homberg from IUCN Netherlands, and I am from Wetlands International, will be moderating this webinar and discussing with you all these questions around nature-based solutions. We'll first start with a quick context around nature-based solutions, which Helene will give us I'll give the floor to Helene. We'll then hear from Apri, who will be giving us some evidence and lessons learned from DEMAC in Indonesia. We'll then hear from Renier, who will give us a status on the state of knowledge on agriculture and nature-based solutions. And then we'll hear from Navisa, who will talk to us about coastal defense and food securities, new avenues. We'll then have a chance for Q&A and some closing remarks. Please feel free to use the Q&A option on the webinar platform so that you can, during the presentations in any moment of the webinar, send your questions to the speakers. And we will try to address these questions during the Q&A section. For your information, this webinar is being recorded. It will be available on the YouTube channels of EcoShape and NL2120, as well as social media platforms. So without further ado, I will pass over the floor to Helene, who will give us this context around NL2120 and nature-based solutions.
Thank you, Elise. Very shortly, NL2120 program was born out of a vision, a positive vision for the Netherlands. How could it be climate resilient and livable in the year 2120, 100 years from now, because of all the challenges that we face with climate change, biodiversity loss, and other issues. So this vision, it led to the NL2120 consortium and program. Next, please. So our motto is elevating nature-based solutions, scaling it up, breaking through the barriers together where we can by a 10-year research and innovation program, and it's supported by the Dutch Growth Fund, the Dutch government. Next, please. Nature-based solutions, we use the IUCN definition, which is quite widespread, saying their actions, so it's deliberate actions to protect, sustainably manage and restore ecosystems, natural or modified ecosystems, and these actions address societal challenges effectively and adaptively, simultaneously benefiting people and nature. So starting from the end, in the end, the action should benefit people and nature. It should be done in an adaptive and effective way, and mostly it's about addressing multiple societal challenges. Sometimes it's one, but ideally it's multiple society challenges. And what is done for that? Modified or natural ecosystems are sustainably managed and restored. So it's deliberate actions to address certain pressing challenges in society. Next one. So the first objective of the program is upscaling nature-based solutions, and we develop the knowledge that is required to scale up nature-based solutions, and the explicit idea is to embed nature-based solutions as a default option in spatial decision-making in our country. Next one. The second objective is that they contribute to the gross national product of the Netherlands through avoided climate damage, which can be very, very costly, social added value, and also increased export. So we have an export agenda and we have deliberate international collaborations, and the international component of our project is addressed today as well in this webinar. Next one, please. So we're quite a group of organizations. It's knowledge institutes, it's companies, it's universities, it's higher education, and it's civil society organizations. And one specific group that is very important in this one is called EcoShape. Next, please. EcoShape is a platform where pre-competitive collaboration is done between companies and other organizations on water-related NBS. And we organize this webinar together as NL2120 and EcoShape today. So welcome. Next one, please. Let's start, let's learn, and let's exchange, because nobody can be the solution alone. Over to you, Elise.
Excellent, Hindley, thank you very much for that excellent introduction around nature-based solutions and the NL2120 program. So as we are all aware, rising sea levels, land subsidence, and increasingly frequent storms are threatening the livelihoods in deltas and coastal zones around the world. Southeast Asia is one of the most at-risk regions when it comes to the impacts of climate change. And according to the ADB, over 75% of Southeast Asian cities fall under category of cities most exposed to sea level rise, as well as other risks related to climate change. The issue that has been noted is that traditional infrastructure, while they may protect against coastal floods, hard engineering solutions can also disrupt ecosystems or undermine existing food production systems. However, if we work with nature rather than against it, what we can do is find nature-based approaches that offer these multifunctional solutions to societal challenges. These nature-based approaches have been implemented already in the field, and from restoring mangroves to restoring the natural flow of rivers, there's a big variety of nature-based approaches that can be addressing both coastal defense and food security. These solutions may involve different degrees of interventions as well. We can call them hybrid solutions. And today we will be hearing about these field-tested concepts and case studies in order to showcase how nature-based solutions can strengthen coastal defense and improve food security. We'll hear about these nature-based solutions that can offer adaptive, multifunctional approaches and that deliver multiple benefits for people and the environment. We'll specifically discuss how nature-based solutions reduce coastal risks while supporting food security. What are the enabling conditions that are necessary for scaling up nature-based solutions in Southeast Asia? And what are the opportunities for collaboration with the NL2020 and EcoShape? I will now pass over the floor to Apri, who will give us some insights into the MAC case. So an important point to mention is today we'll hear case studies around Indonesia, so some from different perspectives, from different standpoints. So we hope you enjoy the following presentations. Over to you, Apri.
Okay, thank you, Alice. Let me share presentation. You see the presentation?
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, thank you. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Apri Susanto Astra from Wetlands International Indonesia. I am the coordinator of the Coast and Deltas program, which focuses on community-based mangrove rehabilitation and coastal management. Today, I'd like to share some lessons learned from Building with Nature in Indonesia program in the MAC, especially about how we apply a multi-stakeholder approach. Okay, first, I'd like to take you all to our project site in the MAC district, Central Java province, located on the north coast of Java. This This area has been facing severe erosion and tidal flooding, mainly due to the mangrove conversion, groundwater extraction, coastal development, and the impacts of climate change. And as a result, a large area of land have been lost, and local community as well as economic sectors have suffered major loss. In some area, the sea has already claimed more than 3 kilometers of land, and entire villages have disappeared. Many communities have lost a large part of their income, around up to 60 to 80% in some villages. The agriculture and aquaculture sectors, which are key driver of Indonesia economy, have also suffered losses worth billions. Various efforts actually have been made to address these issues, such as building hard coastal protection structures and planting mangroves. However, these measures haven't been very successful in delivering lasting benefit for both communities and nature. This shows the need for a more innovative approach. So, building with nature is an integrated coastal zone management approach that strengthens the resilience by combining smart engineering, mangrove restoration, and sustainable land use practices. This approach not only protects the coast and build resilient communities, but also enhance nature and support the local economy. The stat- sorry, the strategy of this program actually create a mangrove-based economy as as a prosperous economy enables the maintenance of the mangrove green belt, and in turn, mangroves provide the coastal security that enables the economy to prosper. This initiative is carried out through a multi-stakeholder partnership that includes government, NGOs, university, the private sector, and community members. Essentially, a public-private collaboration. Ecologists and engineers collaborate with the community, which sits at the heart of design, implementation, and maintenance phases. So in this collaboration, we consist of the program management, which is EcoShape and Wetlands International. We have government partner from Indonesia, Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries, and also Public Works and Housing. Knowledge partner is consists of Deltares, TU Delft, UNESCO, Wageningen, and local partner we have Undip, Diponegoro University, Blue Forest, and Kota Kita. The engineering firm partner we have Witteveen Bos and von Lieberman, and community of course we work with 10 community groups in 9 villages in Demak. So the collaboration linked global expertise with local knowledge in engineering, aquaculture, ecosystem, capacity building, and also governance. Together, ecologists, engineers, and community members work side by side, sharing knowledge and efforts. This cross-disciplinary effort was key to our achievement, as every partner contribute distinct expertise and experience. As you can see in the slide, that we distribute our tasks based on our expertise, based on our background. So we align with government on the implementation in the field with the program that conducted by the government, not only from national, but also from local level. From non-government organization, we have roles on the coordination and implementation, of course, based on our specific background, empower local communities, policy dialogue, and also contribute an ecological expertise. From Knowledge Institute, they have role on knowledge sharing, implementation and monitoring, capacity building, and conducting the scientific research. For private sector, they will support us in the implementation of engineering, exchange the idea, and also involve in the design and planning. And last but not least, community, they involve in design, implementation, and maintenance of the building with nature measures. This initiative consistently positions the community as the core stakeholder across the entire process of design, implementation, and maintenance. Accordingly, we have fully integrated community participation, starting from the planning stage through it to its implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. And our program also utilized the biorights mechanism. This is this mechanism is providing conditional grants to local community for economic ventures in exchange for their active participation in mangrove conservation efforts. The measures conducted by community is officially mandated within government development plans, aiming to foster prosperity and enhance resilience among vulnerable communities and economic sectors. And I believe this is my last slide. The lesson learned from our Building with Nature Indonesia program. This one is the importance of the stakeholder involvement at every stage of the program, from the very beginning on designing, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. We also need to covering a broad range of benefits, the need of multi-financing stream. We also need to pay attention on working with nature, not against it, and adaptive management following the dynamics that happen in the field. And last but not least, support from government and political will from the government is very important. Yeah, I think that's all of my presentation. And as a closer, we also like to say that we are very honored that our program, this EcoShape Consortium program, is very honored that Building with Nature has been selected as one of the World Restoration Flagship. Thank you for your attention, and back to you, Alice.
Thank you very much, Apri. Excellent timing as well. A very interesting presentation, learning about building with Nature Indonesia, these multi-stakeholder approaches, as well as innovative approaches to engage with local communities. So thanks a lot for sharing your experience, especially around this community-based mangrove restoration in Indonesia. I will now hand over to Renier for his presentation.
I was going to talk, but I saw that I was still muted, so apologies for that. Let me see if I can share my screen.
Great, thanks, Renier. While you share, just a quick reminder, feel free to write your questions in the Q&A section, and we can address them at the end of the session. Over to you, Renier. Thank you.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. So good morning, everybody. Good afternoon for those not in Europe and elsewhere. My name is Reinier Nauta. I'm a project manager and researcher at Wageningen Marine Research, working on sustainable aquaculture and specialized in seaweeds. Wageningen is quite a large organization. We have over 7,000 colleagues working in 8 different research institutes and subsequently the university. So we have quite a lot of people walking around the world. But for this, I will focus a bit more on aquaculture, nature-based solutions, and specifically in Indonesia. And then, so as Pa Apri already told, the coastal zone is under threat. This is more or less the same picture he showed about the Demak region, where there's a lot of problems with floodings, land subsidence, subsequently salinization. So the increase of salt in groundwater and surface water, either through intrusion, so the water coming into the land, or upwelling, which is more in the bottom, so the seawater is coming into the land, and subsequently affecting the floodings. And as you can see, the blue part here is already the area that is under threat of flooding in this specific area. And it's one of the fastest increasing areas where floodings and land subsidence are at risk. So a really clear location where, the urgency is rather clear. As said, causes for the salinization and the land subsidence is first of all is groundwater extraction. So for having fresh water in this region, people rely on groundwater, which is extracted. And if you see on my picture here, if you start extracting the fresh water, the saline or salt groundwater will come up and negatively affecting the salinity of your available water, which subsequently, well, you won't be able to drink it, but also your plants and other commodities will have to challenge with that. Another factor is soil compactation. So the increasing the coastal area is based on clays. If you extract the water, the soil will also more condense. And another factor of which has been done over the past decades and now is changing at the moment, as also Pa Apri was already telling, the loss of mangroves subsequently negatively affects the coastal zone. But the challenges are actually more complex. As you can see here, this is a picture of the Cirebon region. As a result of the floodings, the salinization, there's a loss of livelihoods, land subsidence continues. At the other hand, new construction is taking place into aquaculture zones, reducing the loss of aquaculture, which is one of the main income sources for the coastal area. But also, if you look at the river in this picture, there's water hyacinths blocking the waterways, subsequently affecting the floodings areas. Shells from oysters and mussels that are cut from sea, they're just dumped into the river, subsequently adding to the flooding risk. So it's really a complex system where not only changing how we use the land, but also how we deal with other factors in the coastal area have to be addressed. And looking from the biological perspective or the ecological perspective, there's a lot of loss on biodiversity and subsequently the food production. So in short, there's less land to use. We have less fresh water. We have an increased risk of floodings, subsequently resulting into a reduced income because there's less food to produce, in the end leading to poverty in the coastal zones, which is on the other hand quite ironically because it's one of the most fertile areas in the world. If we look globally, over 60% of the human population live in the coastal zone because it is so rich in nutrients. So it's a bit of the conflict. And in the end, all these factors also result in less suitable conditions for agriculture in this case. So one part of the solution can be aquaculture. And towards a safe coastal zone, aquaculture, as I said, can be an alternative for agricultures as it produces food and subsequently does income as the food can be sold. For aquaculture and specifically brackish water and marine aquaculture, no fresh water is needed. So there's no need to extract further the limited amounts of fresh waters that are in aquifers, and no to little land is needed to cultivate it because it grows in the sea. As another factor why it is so interesting for the coastal zone, it can act as a buffer zone between the sea and the urban areas. So if you would have the sea, you would have an production zone, and after that you will have the buildings, the houses, and that zone can act as a buffer for the floodings. However, as I already said, it's not implementing just aquaculture. It does require management, and more specifically landscape management, because also in the other picture I previously showed is that often we see that ponds used for aquaculture are just filled with land dumps and waste, and then a building is built up on it. So it really needs the management aspect in this. And aquaculture is not just one thing. It's not just building a pond. No, it can be applied as a gradient, so a utilization gradient. And as you can see in the bottom of my picture on the left, we have the open sea. where we use green mussels and other fisheries activities. Then a bit closer towards the mangroves, we can have seaweed cultivation. Then the mangroves, which are a really important key in building with nature solutions for not only coastal defense, but also they reduce the wave impact during storms, and they're one of the best carbon sequestration systems of the world. After that, we can move a bit more to the land, develop integrated aquaculture. So that's actually a system in which you use different commodities to cultivate. A little bit less salty, we come into brackish, saline agriculture, and lastly, the agriculture and urban areas. So really using the gradient of, in this case, driven by salinity, to apply different methods and forms. And to zoom a bit into the aquaculture, in this case, specifically integrated aquaculture, as Apri already mentioned, that it was really important to get the collaboration with local communities. And together with Universitas Diponegoro, with Professor Dr. Sri Rejeki, we have done quite a lot of field experiments in this area, where we collaborated with local farmers. So we used their systems to see what are options to develop such integrated system. And what we saw, and I just, we did 5 years of research. So I had many things to show, but I specifically took this one. In this graphs at the bottom of my slide, you can see the combination of seaweed farming and shrimp farming. So we had monoculture of seaweed, monoculture of shrimp, and the combined. And this can also be applied in different ways, so combine it with fish, with mangroves, with shellfish. But we saw a significant increase in the production, not only of the seaweeds, but also of the shrimp if we would combine it, which subsequently results in a higher income. And the other part, we used very extensive aquaculture, so we used very little food, which in the end also reduces the environmental impact by fighting the eutrophication in the coastal zone. So what we saw, the co-cultivation for shrimp with seaweeds increased by 165%, and the co-cultivation with the seaweeds made the seaweed increase by 318%. So that's really high numbers and really enhancing the production system. We also saw it with the different commodities. So in the year after, we did it with shrimp, milkfish, and barramundi. Little bit less we saw the effect, but the interesting part of this work was that it was done during a king tide, which is really a big flooding of the area. And the interesting part is that this shows that aquaculture can really thrive well even under flooding conditions in Central Java. So not only it increases food production, but it's also a more resilient food production system. And having the integrated aquaculture, the flooding is still at risk, but as I showed in the previous slides, income is still guaranteed if the flooding is okay. And the impact of flooding, well, if you look at the natural system, mangroves are used to be getting flooded, but can be replanted and be combined with aquaculture. So there we also have a co-cultivation system. Aquaculture, as I just showed, is resilient for floodings. And if you look a bit more to the land side, saline aqua and agriculture can also deal with salt and thus less fresh water, but also in times where there's a lot of fresh water coming in from precipitation, for instance, they can also deal with it. And that's in the bottom right, the graph where we did a lab experiments on how different seaweed species can deal with salinity shifts. So on the bottom, we have the salinity ranging from almost freshwater to full salinity. There is an optimum, but it's really in the area of brackish from 10 ppt from 5 up to 10, 15. So there's quite a range. So they're really resilient to different changes of salinity. But water management is key to come to the conclusion. A transition is needed towards aquaculture to keep the utilization of the coastal zone optimal. So as I stated, it really has to be managed properly. use the appropriate food production for the specific area. So in some cases, it's better to start cultivating seaweed. Some areas are more suitable for shellfish. It's really depending on the local conditions, for which is collaboration is key, like the PPS constructions, where we use the knowledge which is available from scientific research, but also the knowledge from the farmers, which is crucial in understanding local systems. And with that, having the discussion to match the system. And lastly, of course, integrated aquaculture should be implemented, so it improves economic position of the farmers, it reduces environmental impact, and it's resilient to floodings, in the end helping the whole system. So thank you very much. As stated, we did a lot of work together with Universitas Diponegoro, for which we're really grateful, and really showed the nice collaboration between the Netherlands, the local farmers, and the local university. If you have any questions later after the presentation, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. That was it. Thank you, and back to you, Elise.
Thank you very much, Rainier. Very interesting presentation. Great to see how, from a landscape approach for looking into these complex coastal issues in an integral manner and proposing solutions that also connect to food security. Thanks a lot for this very interesting presentation. I'll hand over now to Navisa. Excellent. Thank you, Navisa. Over to you.
Hello, can you hear me and can you see my slide?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
We can see everything.
All right, perfect. So yeah, good afternoon, everyone. In this opportunity, I would like to share my experience exploring how nature-based solutions are transforming coastal protections by providing sustainable and adaptable approach to address complex coastal challenges. My name is Nafisa. I'm a biomanagement specialist at Haskoning, Jakarta, Indonesia. So as a background, I hold a master's degree in marine biology, but my current work focuses on general biodiversity issues and nature-based solutions. Over the past 2 years, I have contributed to projects involving freshwater NBS in Mekong, mangrove in India, and many company research to create decision support framework for coastal protection using NBS. So in this talk, I'll start by explaining the problem our coastal are facing now and how NBS can help fix them in a practical and sustainable way. And then I will continue to share 2 case studies from the map. I think Apri and Rina already mentioned a bit about that. And also in Bintan to show how using NBS has made a positive difference in solving coastal problems. So let's take a look first about the coastal problems. As everyone's knowing here, climate change has caused sea level to rise and has led to more frequent and powerful storms and typhoons. At the same time, an increased number of people are choosing to live along the coast, putting additional pressures on these regions. And as a result, coastal flooding and erosion are becoming major problems, threatening the safety, stability of community. And this is something that we urgently need to manage with better planning and stronger adaptation effort by using NBS approach. In the context of coastal protections, NBS are designed to deliver 3 main services that help address coastal problem. In here, it includes providing flood protections by reducing the risk and impact of floodings, and attenuating wave to lessen on their force before they reach the shore, and protection against erosions to maintain the integrity of coastal lines. So NBS in here can be implemented in different scales. At the landscape scale, as you can see in here, they address multiple challenges across large area, such as what Haskoning did in the Mekong Delta, when we try to mitigate the seawater intrusion in the regions, and also at the same time to help area from floodings. And then on the smaller scales, as you can see in the right side, NBS targets specific issues like installing artificial reef or greening the dikes to boost local biodiversity. NBS is a part of the green-gray transitions. What this image shows is that when we only rely on the traditional engineering, usually we forget about the environmental and ecological considerations. So those solutions are very flexible or adaptive to, let's say, sea level rise in this context. But in contrast, nature-based solutions and hybrid approaches, which combine engineering and ecological strategies, offer much greater benefits. Not only do they help protect our community, but they also provide valuable ecosystem services, such as supporting wildlife and also improving water quality, for instance. For areas with limited construction budgets, such as in many countries in Southeast Asia, hybrid solutions within the NBS spectrums can help protect coastal lives while also providing additional benefits to local ecosystem. So in this way, NBS can work alongside and enhance traditional infrastructure rather than fully replacing it. So it can go hand in hand. Here is an example, like when we start to decide which actually the most suitable solutions to be implemented, we start for the at least six key considerations in here. First, what type of coastal problem we want to address, whether it's a flooding, erosion, or maybe about the wave. And next, try to understand the environmental suitability, like is it about the sandy shoreline, a sandy coast or rocky shores, or maybe it has like a high tidal range, or is more like in the onshore than rather than offshore. So we need to also understand what's in there. And next, what's the benefit we want to gain? Is it only for the biodiversity, or we also want to provide other benefit for, let's say, alternative livelihood like aquacultures? And the fourth one is about adaptability and complexity. When we try to implement nature-based solution in the coastal area, we need to think like how well it will adapt, for instance, like to sea level rise. Like we have mangrove, it is usually mangrove regeneration and rejuvenation and can take place naturally in healthy system. As the sea level continue rising, this vegetated mangrove will move naturally to inland versus dike, like the conventional dike. It can be actually heightened both in seaward and landward, but in terms of adaptability and complexity, maybe it's more complex and it requires more effort to do that. So in the fifth consideration is about operation and maintenance. So it's how much effort we need to put in order to make the solution to be effectively addressing the problem. And lastly, the most important one is the cost. It's always the cost, like how much we need to spend in order to resulting this NBS and implementing in NBS in the long term. So in here, below is the example how Haskoning developed NBS catalogs that illustrate how different solutions can be matched to different needs. Each NBS option, whether it's mangrove restorations, artificial reef, or dune stabilization, has a distinct characteristic, advantages, challenge, and make it essential to align the choice with the key consideration above. So this tailored approach ensures that the selected NBS will offer maximum effectiveness and sustainability for the unique context of each coastal area. So now I will share the case study from the map. It's actually something that's been mentioned before. It's actually a landscape proposition for Cirebon and the MAC, the collaboration with EcoShape. So in here, I think it's been mentioned that the MAC is one of the area along the north coast of Java most severely affected by land subsidence and tidal flooding, which has made it priority for Indonesian governments. So low-lying coastal zones here have already suffered extreme coastal erosions and the loss of hectare of land and even the relocation of entire village. This is the Sayung district. It's actually the area with a severe land subsidence in the MAC regions. This is triggered, but again, It's because of the excessive groundwater extractions. So this is, as you can see in this image, the blue area show land that now sits below the annual flood level due to rising sea levels. This all began with excessive groundwater extractions, which caused the ground to sink and increase the risk of floodings, making coastal community much more vulnerable. So if you look at here, you will notice how much the coastal line has changed between 1991 and 2022. Coastal erosion has become a serious concern in this area. So on top of that, removing mangroves to make way for more fish ponds put even more pressure on this area. For the record, previous attempt to restore mangrove did help with some sediment build up, but this hasn't been enough to keep pace with the rapid land subsidence. That's why in here, we try to propose a new landscape proposition for sustainable solutions to address these challenges. So it starts with the do nothing scenario. So if we don't take action in Sayong district, things will get much worse. The ground will keep sinking and homes and roads will drop faster than people can keep up. Fishermen will have to go further out to catch fish, and farmers will find it harder to grow crops. Without urgent help, people's livelihood and safety will quickly be put at risk. Now, with hybrid scenario, the landscape plan for Denmark is designed as one unified system made up of 3 interconnected zones, each with its own specific role. First, the coastal and intertidal zone is all about adapting to live along the shoreline, where people learn to live with water. Next, there's the consolidated coastal zones, which is the proposed area for new settlement and infrastructures built around the future sea dike to help protect this community. And finally, further inland, we have water-neutral residents and industries. In this area, any new development needs to carefully manage water use and make sure that water is retained in the landscape. This is actually the visualization show how embracing the idea of living water opens up new opportunity for the community. For example, it is inspired innovative housing design such as floating homes and designated new zone for mangrove restoration and seaweed farming. It also support alternative livelihood like integrating mangrove-friendly aquaculture practices. The aim is not just solve the problems using structural solutions, but also to introduce non-structural approach by raising awareness about conservation and sharing knowledge about sustainable way to earn livings. This is the case study 2. It's actually initiated by with the Van Bos and with funding support from RVO. The project addressed, yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. We just have 1 minute left. So I was wondering if maybe you would like to just do a wrap up for your presentation, and we can share with the participants the presentation so that they have information about the Bintan case study too. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay. So, all right. So I mean like for these projects is actually trying to address the challenge of financing NBS by integrating ecological restoration with innovative value creation activities such as ecotourism, sustainable agriculture, and also carbon sequestrations. This is where the location is. So the ultimate goal is to create a scalable model that can transform global approach to conservation and resilience. So this is the project phase. The phase 1 is about stakeholder engagements. Phase 2 is try to find study case for the blueprint, and the phase 3 is in implementations. And we are just finished the phase 1 because this phase 1 focus on business case frameworks to capture the value created in the projects and link it to potential funding and financing support nature restoration and conservations. The vision is to expand more, not only in Bintan, Indonesia, and beyond. This is how the project looks like. by restoring key ecosystem like mangrove, seagrass, and corals, it will lead to open new opportunity to attract visitor who interest in nature-based activities which support local business and generate revenue that can be reinvested into community developments. So to sum up, even NBS are known to be effective for protecting coastline, they are still not being used much across Southeast Asia. So a lot of this comes down because of, again, about the law that exists in the area. Also, we need to require, like NBS usually require more space, and the solution is sometimes it's questionable. There's no so much case or pilot project that can prove the NBS is actually works. So that's why it's all important to keep spreading the word and sharing knowledge about NBF. Yeah, I think that will be all for me. So if you want to know more about NBS for coastal protections, so it's feel free to contact me and connect me on LinkedIn. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Navisa. I think a very complimentary presentation. We've heard a lot today about Indonesia. It's been very interesting. I will now hand over to Helene for the Q&A session.
Hi, everyone. I will start with questions from the chat, from the Q&A, and try to combine them a little bit with what you sent in beforehand. And a key question here is asked by Rusmi. Totally agree, and I would like to direct it to Rainier in the first place, and then the others can also react. Totally agree that the management should be at landscape level. However, up to some point, it's a political as well as economic issue. How do you advise grassroots civil society organizations to generate this landscape level movement and management? A key question, I think. And while you answer this, Rainier and Apri and Navisa, please also address how did you include local communities from the start? You say that stakeholder engagement from the start is very important. How did you do that, Apri and Navisa? Thanks. Rainier, the word to you first.
Yeah, so thank you very much for the question. Really interesting, and I fully agree that it's really a challenging topic. I also directly have to say that I'm a researcher and not a politician, and there's a reason for it. But I think it's really it's linked again to the local community and local involvement, because Indonesia is really a large country, and if you would have to organize everything from a country level, it's really challenging. So you would really need the support of local communities, and also have them to enhance the methods being implemented and the land management. And one of the ways to do that could be to set up cooperations between farmers who also take action in cases that land is shifted from food production systems, being aquaculture or agriculture, to house building or whatsoever, and that local corporations really enhance and enforce the political regulations. So, but that's from my perspective, being a researcher, that it would be really bottom-up control would be the most suitable option. And then going a bit to the other question, having local stakeholders being involved, the experiments we did together with Universitas Diponegoro was all with local farmers. So in 2023, we did a really large experiment with about 15 local farmers being involved. Almost the whole village was being involved, because we did the experiment in their ponds. And to get the commitment, we rented the ponds, and we told the farmers, okay, we want to do the experiment. We want to cultivate, in this case, it was tilapia and seaweeds. And at the end of the experiment, you can sell the products produced in your pond. That also ensured that the farmers had the urge to keep an eye on their ponds and not to mess up the experiment. So in that way, they could profit from the experiment. We could get the data, as for us was the crucially important, and there was a direct local involvement, and they could directly see what the effect was of integrated aquaculture.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Apri, would you like to complement? Because in your case as well, what you explained is quite key, the local communities.
Yes, thank you, Helen. Regarding the conducting the implementation across the border between two district or two city, it's really important to build this collaboration between two different authorities, because as you mentioned, implementation of nature-based solution is not limited by the border, but it's talking about landscape. So what we do is usually to talk and conduct a policy dialogue between two of authority, and to make sure that they have the program aligned between each other. But yeah, that the challenge is to fill the political will of the different government. But at least we try to do the communication between each of the government. And for the involvement of the local community, as Rainier already mentioned, that's also what we do usually in our program in the field. We always involving all the local stakeholders, not only the community, but also all the stakeholders that relate with the coastal management, from the local government, from the local NGO and others. This is important to make sure they involve from since the beginning, from the design, planning, to make sure they also put their information, their local knowledge about the location to embed in the design. And based on experience, when we involve them from beginning of the process, and then the ownership of the program, it will become also not only for the project, for the program, but also it's belong to the community or belong to village. So that's our experience, Ellen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And before I give the floor to Nafisa, please see if you have something to add to what the former speaker said, but I would like to couple two other questions to you if you feel comfortable with it. And one is that was asked in the chat as well. How do you monitor the effects? You were going into, is this the most effective solution or not? How do you go about monitoring this? That's one. And another question that was asked beforehand is, how about finance? And you touched upon it in your last slide, I think. How about finance by public and private, large public and private investors to enable this? So Nafisa, actually three things to you: local communities, monitoring and finance. Good luck.
Okay, well, so many questions at the same time, but I try to address the first question first, about how we usually involve local community. So because I usually involve in the early stage of the project when we try to understand what's the real problems in there. So it's because before we only have like a perspective of outsiders. So maybe for us it's a problem, but maybe for the local community it's not a big problem. So that's actually the important process, the crucial process to aligning like their problems actually also part of our problems. That's the first. And also to cross-check what's their expectations, what's happened before and what's not happened again now. For instance, like we're talking about fisheries, let's say, before they can catch fish in the near shore, but because of the coastal erosion and development, there are no needs to require to fishing further. There's already a change. So that's the things that we try to put it in our consideration when we select type of the NBS solution itself. Even in the earliest stage to select which one is the best first. And the second question is about monitoring the biodiversities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, NBS is something that actually we invest something that the result, it takes time to happen. It's like when we try to, let's say, create artificial reef, for instance, it takes like a year to grow like 5 centimeters of acropora reef, which it takes time also to generate fishes to come to the area. So, well, to monitor that as a consultant, we cannot do it alone. We also need to engage, let's say, the NGO, for instance, or try to make a community group, like fishermen groups, let's say, to help us to monitor the coral in there. There's like a various way to help us try to monitor that that solution, whether it works or not. And the third one about the financings, yes, this is actually a big issue about implementing NBS.
To be answered in 30 seconds. How about that, Nafisa?
Yeah, okay. The blended financing is actually so far is the best options to gain the funding by incorporating the government funding, philanthropy, and also the privates. Yeah, well, it's again very difficult to do that, but well, that's so far the best option we gain from the answer from the interview with our stakeholders. So
Thank you, and I think we need more webinars to talk about that. Huh?
yeah.
Back to you, Elisa. Elisa, you're muted.
There we go. Yes, thank you very much. My mute was still on. Well, thank you very much for this very informative Q&A. I think we have a lot of other questions that were coming in the chat, also questions that you sent through prior to the webinar, which were very interesting. So what we'll do after this webinar is we'll collect these questions and come back to you with some more comprehensive responses by email. So maybe just as a key to conclude very quickly, I don't know, Helene, is there some specific key points that you would like to take away from this webinar?
No, thank you. Because of time, please.
Because
go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, in general, I think this was a very interesting case. Our focus was very much on Indonesia today. I think that was an interesting way to see nature-based solutions from different approaches, from different perspectives, complementary perspectives as well. So I think we have a lot more to discuss. And for that reason, we also invite you to join at our next webinar, which will be on nature-based solutions, quality for impact, learning by doing, which will be on the Thursday, the 27th of November. You can register on the ecoshape.org page. This webinar will also be organized under the NL2120 framework, along with the IUCN and Interreg. And you can find that on the start page of the ecoshape.org. So on behalf of NL21, of EcoShape, Wetlands International, all our speakers today, I would like to thank you all for joining this webinar, and we look forward to keeping this conversation going.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thank you.